The alien warrior requested a duel with a human. The outcome stunned her. In the vast reaches of space, humans were still new to the galactic coalition. For centuries, humanity had been confined to Earth, building, exploring, and dreaming. Now they had joined a larger universe, one filled with strange stars, distant planets, and countless alien civilizations. Some humans were excited, some were afraid, and some, like Commander Alara Thorne, were ready for anything. Alara had always been different. She had grown up watching the stars from her small home on the outskirts of New Chicago. While other children played games on Earth, she built small spacecraft models and read stories of explorers who had gone beyond the sky. She dreamed of adventure, of proving that humans could stand among the stars not just as guests, but as equals. That dream had carried her into the ranks of the Galactic Coalition's space fleet, where she quickly became one of their youngest and most skilled pilots. Life in the Coalition was not easy. Humans were still considered weak by many alien species. They were slower, smaller, and less physically strong compared to the larger, taller, and more aggressive species that dominated the galactic councils. Yet humans had one thing many others did not: adaptability. They could think quickly, improvise, and face impossible situations with determination. Alara embodied that spirit. It was a quiet day aboard the space station Viridian, orbiting a green and blue gas giant called Chiron Prime. The station was a marvel of engineering, with sleek towers stretching high, docking bays for starships of all sizes, and observation decks that looked out into the glittering stars. Humans were a minority here, scattered among thousands of aliens from hundreds of species, each with their own customs and ways of life. Alara was reviewing star charts in her quarters when a message appeared on her communicator. It was not the usual request from a fleet officer or the routine report from the navigation team. The symbol on the screen was unfamiliar, a glowing, shifting emblem of the Zorath clan, a warrior species known across several galaxies for their strength and honor. The message read simply, "Commander Alara Thorne, I request a duel, prepare yourself." Xyler Zorath clan, Alara blinked. A duel, that was not common in the Galactic Coalition. Most species solved disagreements through negotiation, diplomacy, or displays of skill in simulations. But a direct duel was unusual, especially between a human and a Zorath. She had heard stories about the Zorath. They were massive, muscular, and trained from birth in combat. No human had ever been challenged by one, and certainly no human had ever accepted. Yet here was Xyler, a warrior from a species famous for honor and combat, sending her a formal request. Alara felt a rush of excitement. This was what she had always wanted, a challenge. A true test of skill. Not just flying, not just leading troops, but a personal duel where she could prove that humanity was more than what others believed. She accepted. She activated her communicator and sent a short reply. "I accept. Tell me the time and place." The response came almost immediately. "Chiron Prime Arena, tomorrow at sunrise." Alara leaned back in her chair, thinking. She knew the arena. It was a legendary place, built to host competitions and duels between species. The floating platform hovered above Chiron Prime's swirling gas clouds. The arena itself was alive with technology, capable of shifting its environment to simulate gravity, terrain, and obstacles. It was designed to push warriors to their limits. As the sun rose on Chiron Prime, the station buzzed with news. Aliens whispered to each other about the audacity of the Zorath warrior and the bravery, or foolishness, of the human commander. Some believed Xyler would win easily. After all, humans were known for intelligence, not strength. Others were curious to see if humanity's unpredictability could make a difference. Alara didn't care about the gossip. She focused on preparation. She spent the day training. Unlike many of the aliens, she did not rely purely on strength. She practiced agility, speed, and precision. Her training modules simulated combat with opponents larger and stronger than herself. She reviewed techniques, studied movement patterns, and considered strategy. She had to turn her perceived weakness, her smaller size and lighter build, into an advantage. Humans were clever, quick, and determined. She would use every trait she had to stand her ground. That evening, as she prepared her gear, she thought about Xyler. What kind of being challenged a human? What made him think she could match him? She did not know his appearance, his fighting style, or his personality. All she knew was that he respected the code of honor enough to issue a formal challenge. In the Zorath culture, honor was everything. Accepting a duel meant acknowledging the other's skill. Perhaps he had heard of her victories in space conflicts, or perhaps he simply wanted to test humans for himself. Either way, it did not matter. She would be ready. The night was quiet. Stars glittered outside her window, and the soft hum of the space station was calming. Alara felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She had faced impossible odds in simulations, but this would be real. Every instinct, every decision would matter. She reminded herself of why she had chosen this path. Humans were underestimated. They were overlooked. This duel was more than a challenge, it was a statement. The next morning, she arrived at the Chiron Prime Arena. The floating platform stretched as far as she could see, surrounded by the swirling colors of the gas giant below. A crowd had gathered, aliens from multiple systems, representatives of the Galactic Coalition, and curious onlookers. Cameras floated around to capture every angle. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Then he appeared, Xyler, the Zorath warrior. He stepped onto the arena floor with a calm, confident stride. His armor shimmered in shades of blue and gold, reflecting the gas giant's light. He was taller and broader than any human she had ever seen. His movements were precise, almost ritualistic, and every step seemed measured and controlled. He looked directly at her, eyes bright and intelligent. There was no malice, only focus. The crowd fell silent. Two beings from very different worlds were about to face each other, and no one knew what to expect. Xyler spoke, his voice deep and clear. "Human, I have heard of your skills, I respect your courage. Today we will test our limits. Fight with honor and may the outcome strengthen both our people." Alara nodded, her heart steady despite the nervous energy. "I will fight with honor," she replied, "and I will show that humans are not to be underestimated." The arena's environment shifted. Gravity adjusted, obstacles appeared, and the floor beneath them shimmered, testing their balance and agility. This duel would not be a simple exchange of blows. It would test every skill they possessed: speed, strength, intelligence, and adaptability. As they faced each other, Alara felt a surge of determination. She was small compared to Xyler, yes, but she had something no algorithm, no amount of raw power could predict: human ingenuity. Every move, every counter, every decision could be unexpected. That unpredictability was her greatest weapon. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. "Prepare yourselves. The duel begins now." Alara took a deep breath, tightened her grip on her combat staff, and stepped forward. Across from her, Xyler mirrored her stance. The stars above Chiron Prime seemed to hold their breath. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time in centuries, humanity had the chance to prove itself, not through diplomacy, not through numbers, but through courage, skill, and heart. This was only the beginning. The arena shimmered as the gravity adjusted and the floor beneath Alara and Xyler shifted. It was no ordinary battlefield. Panels of light rose and fell, creating walls, platforms, and obstacles. The air seemed to hum, and a faint vibration ran through the floor. Every element of the arena was designed to test the competitors' minds as much as their bodies. Alara felt her pulse quicken, but her focus sharpened. She had trained for this moment. The simulations had prepared her for changing environments, for sudden shifts in gravity, and for unexpected challenges. But this was real. Her opponent was real. Xyler was real. He moved with precision, taking the first step toward her. Every motion was controlled, purposeful, and yet fluid. Alara noted the slight tilt of his head, the way his feet balanced with each step, and the steady rhythm of his breathing. He was calm, confident, and aware. She recognized in him the same dedication she had in herself. They were not just warriors, they were observers, analyzing each other. The crowd's chatter faded into silence as the two faced each other. Spectators could feel the tension, the electricity in the arena, and the anticipation of something extraordinary. Humans were rare in such competitions, and the audacity of a Zorath challenging one of them drew attention from all corners of the coalition. Xyler spoke, his voice deep but controlled. "Human, I can feel your strength but also your caution. Do you trust in your instincts?" Alara replied evenly, "I trust in my training and in my heart. That has brought me this far." The Zorath warrior tilted his head, a gesture she did not fully understand. It seemed to be curiosity rather than judgment. Then, without warning, he lunged. Alara reacted instinctively. She leaped to the side, landing on a platform that rose beneath her feet. The arena responded immediately, tilting slightly, testing her balance. She rolled forward, narrowly avoiding a swing from Xyler's energy staff. It was heavier than her own, but his technique made it look effortless. The first few moments of the duel were chaos. Lights shifted, floors moved, and the environment changed as quickly as they moved through it. Alara relied on her agility and instincts. She dodged, jumped, and countered, using the arena's features to her advantage. Platforms allowed her to leap above Xyler, walls let her slide and evade attacks, and gravity shifts tested her ability to think quickly. Xyler adapted rapidly. Unlike many of the Zorath warriors who relied on brute strength, he was analytical. Every feint, every movement she made, he observed and responded to. Yet, no matter how fast or clever he was, he could not anticipate everything. Humans were unpredictable. That unpredictability was both a challenge and a weapon. The duel continued, and with every exchange, Alara began to understand Xyler better. He was honorable. He did not attack recklessly. Every strike was measured, and he refrained from exploiting any weakness in a dishonorable way. That impressed her. In their culture, humans respected skill, ingenuity, and determination, but this alien's respect for rules and honor was beyond anything she had imagined. She countered one of his swings by leaping off a platform, spinning in midair, and landing behind him. The arena shifted again, dropping a wall in his path. He adapted, catching himself and pivoting, ready for the next strike. Alara realized that while she could rely on human creativity, he relied on discipline and control. Both approaches were strengths, but the combination made them evenly matched. The crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. Few had ever witnessed a human move with such precision and courage. Even Xyler's fellow Zorath warriors, observing from the stands, were surprised. He was a legendary fighter among his people, and yet a human challenged him in ways he had not anticipated. Minutes passed, and neither fighter had landed a decisive blow. It was not just strength or speed that mattered, it was timing, strategy, and anticipation. Alara felt sweat bead on her forehead, not from fatigue but from focus. Every movement, every decision mattered. She had to predict not just Xyler's attacks but the arena's shifts as well. Then, a sudden change. The arena began to rise and tilt dramatically, simulating a near-zero gravity environment. Platforms floated in midair, spinning slowly, creating precarious positions. This was a test of control. Many warriors would panic in such conditions, but Alara had trained for zero-gravity maneuvers. She leaped from platform to platform, keeping her staff ready, adjusting to every shift. Xyler's massive frame adapted surprisingly well. He moved with a grace that belied his size, pushing off floating platforms and adjusting his stance midair. Alara noted his focus, his calm demeanor, and the fact that even in challenging conditions, he maintained control. She had to be careful. One misstep could lead to her falling into the arena's lower levels, which would cost her the duel. Their movements became a dance of strategy and skill. Neither wanted to strike recklessly. Each attack and counterattack was deliberate, testing not just strength, but intelligence. Alara realized that this duel was as much a mental contest as a physical one. Xyler was learning her patterns as quickly as she was learning his. During a brief pause in the combat, they floated near each other, maintaining a careful distance. Xyler spoke, his voice calm and respectful. "You are different from what I expected. Humans, you are resilient, clever, and unpredictable. I underestimated you." Alara smiled slightly, floating in zero gravity. "I never expected a Zorath to challenge a human. I underestimated nothing. But I did expect this, that we would learn from each other." Xyler's eyes, glowing faintly beneath his helmet, seemed to reflect something almost human: curiosity, respect, and recognition. They were warriors, yes, but also beings capable of understanding one another beyond words. This realization struck Alara. The duel was no longer about proving superiority. It was about connection, challenge, and growth. As the duel resumed, the arena shifted again. Gravity returned partially, but new obstacles rose: floating pillars, energy barriers, and moving platforms that tested balance and timing. Alara used every tool in her arsenal. She dodged a swing, ricocheted off a wall, and countered with a precise strike, forcing Xyler to parry defensively. The human ingenuity and alien precision clashed like waves against rocks, each testing the other, neither yielding. The crowd watched in awe. Humans were known for their adaptability, but to see it displayed in a duel against one of the galaxy's most formidable warriors was breathtaking. The whispers grew into excited murmurs. Some spectators began to cheer silently for the human, others for the Zorath. Yet everyone agreed, this was a fight unlike any they had seen. Alara felt a rush of exhilaration. This was what she had dreamed of her entire life, not just fighting, but facing the impossible and pushing her limits. She knew she could not rely on brute force. She had to rely on strategy, instinct, and heart. Humans had something no other species possessed: creativity born from uncertainty. That creativity could turn the tide of the duel if she used it wisely. Suddenly, Xyler lunged in a move faster than she had anticipated. Alara barely managed to parry, the force of his staff knocking her backward. She rolled and landed on a floating platform, narrowly avoiding an energy barrier that had risen in her path. Her heart raced, but her mind remained sharp. She analyzed his movement, noticing a slight pattern in his swings, a rhythm she could exploit. The duel was far from over, but Alara had learned something crucial: she could match him. Not with raw strength, but with cleverness, timing, and intuition. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that underestimation was an advantage. Xyler had expected one type of opponent. He had not expected a human who could think, adapt, and surprise him at every turn. The arena shifted again, lowering gravity in one section and raising it in another. Platforms moved unpredictably. The two fighters moved in perfect sync with the environment, leaping, dodging, and countering. Every action was a statement of skill. Every movement revealed respect. Neither wanted to harm the other unnecessarily. They were warriors, yes, but also beings guided by honor. As Part 2 drew to a close, both Alara and Xyler floated in midair, observing each other with calm intensity. The duel had not yet reached its climax, but both had realized something important. This was not about defeating the other. It was about proving that humans could stand alongside the strongest warriors in the galaxy, that intelligence, courage, and adaptability could match raw power. Alara smiled faintly, tightening her grip on her staff. Xyler met her gaze, a subtle nod acknowledging their shared understanding. The duel was far from over, but one thing was certain: the outcome would not be simple, predictable, or ordinary. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had already made its mark. The arena's environment had shifted again, this time transforming into a jagged landscape floating high above the swirling clouds of Chiron Prime. The gravity varied across platforms, and the air shimmered with faint energy pulses. This stage was more dangerous, more unpredictable, and designed to test not only strength and skill but also courage. Alara adjusted her stance, her hands gripping her combat staff tightly. Every muscle in her body was ready. She had learned to trust her instincts, to rely on her speed, and to think several steps ahead. Yet, despite all her preparation, a small part of her marveled at the scale of the challenge. Xyler, the Zoreth warrior, stood across from her, calm, poised, and measuring her with sharp eyes that seemed to read not just her movements but her thoughts. "Human," Xyler said, his voice calm yet commanding, "you have shown skill and courage. Now let us see how you handle true challenge. The arena will test everything you have." Alara nodded. "I am ready," she replied, her voice steady. Her heart raced, not with fear but with anticipation. This was what she had trained for. This was what humans were meant to prove, that they could rise to any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. The duel resumed. Xyler moved first, lunging with his energy staff in a wide, sweeping strike aimed at forcing her off the platform. Alara twisted her body in midair, using a floating platform as a pivot, and countered with a swift strike to his side. The staff made a hum as it blocked her attack, and sparks of energy flared. Neither warrior gained a clear advantage, but the intensity of their movements impressed the spectators. The human's agility and clever use of the environment were unlike anything the Zorath had faced before. She jumped from one floating rock to another, ducked under swinging energy barriers, and leveraged gravity shifts to keep Xyler guessing. Each move was unpredictable, forcing him to respond with incredible precision. For the first time, Xyler hesitated, just slightly, and Alara noticed. She realized that even the most skilled warrior could be challenged if the environment was used wisely. She could not rely on raw power. She had to outthink him, adapt to his patterns, and exploit opportunities. That was the essence of human ingenuity. The arena reacted to their duel. Platforms rotated, energy barriers rose and fell, and gravity shifted unpredictably. A misstep could send either fighter tumbling into the abyss, ending the duel immediately. The stakes were high, and the tension in the arena was palpable. Spectators from dozens of worlds held their breath, watching the battle unfold like a living tapestry of skill and courage. Alara launched herself at Xyler, spinning in the air and striking his staff with precision. The force of the impact caused both of them to spin, and she barely regained her balance on a tilted platform. The Zoreth warrior's eyes narrowed, and a faint smile appeared beneath his helmet. Respect was clear in his gaze. This human was unlike any opponent he had faced. "You are clever," Xyler said, his voice carrying across the arena, "but cleverness alone will not win." "Perhaps," Alara replied, "but cleverness with courage is a force few can match." He lunged again, faster this time, aiming to end the duel quickly. Alara dodged, but he anticipated her movement, forcing her to leap backward just in time. She twisted, kicked off a floating platform, and landed behind him, striking at his side. He blocked again, and the force of the clash sent a ripple through the arena floor. Sparks flew, illuminating the floating platforms in brilliant bursts of light. The duel was no longer just a test of skill. It had become a mental battle, a game of prediction, strategy, and adaptability. Alara realized she could not simply react. She had to anticipate, to think several moves ahead. Humans were known for their creativity, their ability to improvise, and their willingness to take risks when others hesitated. She had all of these traits, and she used them to her advantage. Xyler, too, adapted. He studied her patterns, analyzed her movements, and adjusted his attacks accordingly. The Zoreth warrior was not merely relying on strength. He was using intelligence, discipline, and experience. Every strike, every parry, every leap was a testament to centuries of training. Yet no matter how skilled he was, the unpredictability of human instinct kept him on edge. The duel reached a critical moment when a section of the arena tilted dramatically, sending both warriors sliding toward each other. Alara's reflexes kicked in. She used the momentum to spin and strike, forcing Xyler to block in a defensive position. The impact caused the floating platform beneath them to shudder. Alara realized that the arena itself could be used as a weapon if she remained alert. She began to manipulate her environment with more strategy. By timing her movements with the arena's shifts, she could create openings, force Xyler off balance, and gain temporary advantages. Each small victory built her confidence. She was a human, a species often underestimated, but she had the heart, the mind, and the courage to stand against one of the galaxy's most formidable warriors. Xyler noticed her growing confidence. He studied her with renewed interest, realizing that this human was more than just agile or clever. She was adaptive, resourceful, and fearless. He adjusted his own strategy, combining strength and precision with patience, testing her resolve. The duel had become a true contest of equals, a battle of skill and intelligence rather than sheer power. Minutes passed like hours as they clashed. Sparks flew from their staffs, platforms shifted beneath their feet, and gravity changes tested their every move. Neither gained a decisive advantage, yet both continued to press forward, learning from each strike, each counter, each movement. Then, something unexpected happened. A sudden surge of energy from the arena created a temporary barrier between them. Alara landed safely, but Xyler was slightly delayed in his response. She recognized the opportunity immediately. With a burst of speed, she maneuvered around the barrier, striking at his side. He blocked, but the force of the attack sent him stumbling back. For the first time, she saw a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Alara's heart raced. This was the moment she had trained for, the moment where human adaptability could shine brighter than raw strength. She pressed the advantage, using the arena's shifting platforms and barriers to her benefit. Every move was calculated, every strike intentional, yet unpredictable. Xyler, however, was far from defeated. He recovered quickly, his movements precise, his attacks measured. He countered with skill and power, testing her endurance, timing, and focus. The duel became a dance, a carefully balanced exchange of energy and skill. Each combatant pushed the other to the limits of their abilities, neither yielding, neither making a mistake. The crowd was mesmerized. They had never seen a duel like this. Humans were known for resilience, but Alara's performance exceeded expectations. She was agile, clever, and fearless, matching a warrior from one of the galaxy's most powerful species. Xyler's respect for her grew with every passing moment. He realized that humans were more than their size or strength. They were beings capable of extraordinary ingenuity and courage. As the duel continued, Alara felt a connection forming. Not a friendship, not yet, but an understanding. Xyler was not her enemy. He was a test, a challenge, a mirror reflecting her own potential. And in that reflection, she saw not weakness but opportunity. The opportunity to prove that humanity could rise to any challenge, no matter how impossible. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, both warriors paused. Floating on separate platforms, they faced each other, breathing heavily but steady. The arena's energy hummed around them, shifting and changing as if reacting to their endurance and skill. "You are remarkable," Xyler said, his voice carrying across the arena. "I did not expect a human to move with such precision, courage, and intelligence. You have exceeded my expectations." Alara smiled, lowering her staff slightly. "And you have taught me something as well, Xyler. Strength is not only in power, but in patience, discipline, and honor." They both knew the duel was far from over, but the respect between them had grown. The first stage of the fight had proven that humans were not to be underestimated. Alara had shown that courage, intelligence, and adaptability were as powerful as any physical advantage. As they prepared to continue, Alara felt a surge of determination. The duel would test them both further, but she was ready. She was human, and humans had a way of surprising the universe. The arena had shifted again. This time, it was a labyrinth of floating platforms suspended over a glowing, swirling energy field. Jagged pillars jutted from the floor below, and energy barriers flickered unpredictably. The environment tested balance, timing, and observation. One wrong step, one miscalculation, could send a warrior plummeting into the abyss below. Alara adjusted her grip on her staff. Her muscles were tense, her senses alert. Every instinct was focused on Xyler, the Zorath warrior, who floated across the platforms with the grace of a predator and the patience of a master strategist. Xyler watched her carefully, noting her movements. His strikes were precise but measured, almost like a dance, each one testing her resolve and skill. He was strong, fast, and disciplined, yet Alara noticed something subtle. Every time she acted unpredictably, he hesitated. Humans were strange, chaotic, and clever. That unpredictability gave her power, even against a being of superior strength. Alara leaped from one platform to another, her staff ready. The energy field below pulsed, sending faint tremors through the platforms. She felt the arena itself was alive, responding to their duel, challenging them to adapt faster than they ever had before. This was the ultimate test, not only of combat skill, but of ingenuity, courage, and mental focus. Xyler struck first, lunging with his staff in a wide arc. Alara ducked and rolled, using a nearby pillar as a shield. Sparks flew where his weapon met the stone-like material of the arena. She countered with a swift strike to his side, but he parried with ease. Each movement, each reaction, was a calculation, a test. They were learning from one another, adjusting, anticipating, and evolving mid-duel. The audience watched in awe. Spectators from dozens of planets had never witnessed a human perform with such skill, courage, and adaptability. The whispers grew into murmurs of excitement. Many aliens had assumed humans were fragile and predictable. Alara was proving them wrong, not with raw strength, but with determination, cleverness, and unyielding spirit. The arena shifted again, tilting one side while raising another. Alara barely held her balance, using her staff to stabilize herself. She realized that every change in the arena could be used as a weapon. By timing her movements, she could force Xyler into difficult positions, creating openings in his otherwise perfect defense. Xyler noticed her strategy immediately. His eyes narrowed and he adjusted his stance. He was learning, adapting to her tactics. This duel was no longer simply a test of strength or speed. It had become a battle of wits, a contest of intellect, courage, and observation. Alara's mind raced. She had to stay ahead, to anticipate not just Xyler's moves, but the arena's shifts as well. Every platform, every barrier, every change in gravity could become a tool if she used it wisely. She darted from pillar to pillar, using momentum, leverage, and timing to maintain the advantage. Her movements were unpredictable, precise, and fluid, a combination that Xyler had not encountered often. Suddenly, the arena rotated, and several platforms began moving horizontally. Alara leaped, spinning in midair, striking at Xyler's side. He blocked, but the momentum forced him back, just enough for her to gain a slight positional advantage. The Zorath warrior paused for a fraction of a second, a moment of hesitation that only humans could exploit. Seizing the opportunity, Alara moved faster, timing her movements with the arena's shifts. She feinted left, then leapt right, forcing Xyler to adjust. He was strong and skilled, but the unpredictable flow of human thought was difficult to counter. For the first time in the duel, she sensed that she might be able to turn the tide. Xyler recovered quickly. His movements remained precise, controlled, and forceful. He lunged, pushing her back, testing her endurance and focus. Yet Alara had expected this. She dodged, spun, and used the arena's obstacles to her advantage. A floating pillar provided cover, then a tilted platform gave her momentum for a counterstrike. Every action was calculated, every response deliberate, yet seemingly spontaneous. The duel escalated. Energy barriers rose and fell, shifting platforms forced new strategies, and the gravity changes tested every muscle in their bodies. Sweat beaded on Alara's forehead, not from exhaustion, but from sheer focus. This duel demanded every ounce of attention, every bit of skill, and every instinct she possessed. Xyler observed her closely. He admired her resilience, ingenuity, and fearlessness. Humans were often underestimated, but this one was extraordinary. She had faced impossible odds, adapted to every challenge, and continued to push forward with determination. Her unpredictability was a strength, and her courage was inspiring. "You are unlike any human I have encountered," Xyler said, his voice calm but filled with respect. "Your mind is as sharp as your movements. I underestimated your people's potential." Alara smiled faintly, catching her breath. "And you are unlike any warrior I have faced. Strength without wisdom is dangerous, but strength with honor is nearly unstoppable." The duel continued, both fighters pushing themselves to the limit. Alara began to notice patterns in Xyler's movements, subtle shifts in his balance, slight hesitations before certain strikes. She adjusted her tactics, exploiting the tiniest openings, using her environment to her advantage. Every maneuver was a test, every counter a demonstration of human ingenuity. The audience could barely keep up. The duel had become a spectacle of skill, intelligence, and courage. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, yet here one was, facing a warrior of legendary strength and ability, holding her own, and even gaining moments of advantage. The murmurs in the stands grew louder, whispers of awe turning into cheers. Xyler lunged once more, faster than before. Alara ducked, rolled, and struck back with a combination of agility and timing. The impact sent both fighters sliding across the platform. Sparks flew from their staffs as they collided again and again. Every move was precise, calculated, and unpredictable. Neither could dominate completely, yet neither could be overwhelmed. Then came the turning point. Alara noticed a subtle flaw in Xyler's balance during a particular strike. It was not a weakness born of error, but a small opening created by the rhythm of his movements. She adjusted her strategy instantly, combining a feint with a calculated leap. Using a floating platform as leverage, she forced him to overextend just slightly. That fraction of a second was all she needed. With precise timing, Alara struck, not with force, not with speed, but with clever use of positioning and momentum. Xyler was caught slightly off balance. For the first time, he stumbled, just enough for her to gain an advantage. The crowd gasped. Humans had not only matched him, they had found a way to challenge even the most disciplined Zoreth warrior. Xyler paused, a hint of surprise in his eyes. He had trained for centuries, mastered countless techniques, and faced countless opponents, yet this human had done what few could. She had exploited an opening, turned the environment to her advantage, and demonstrated creativity and courage beyond expectation. Alara's heart raced. She knew the duel was far from over, but this moment proved something important. Humans were not weak, fragile, or predictable. They could think, adapt, and overcome even the most formidable opponents when they trusted their instincts and used their minds. The Zoreth warrior's expression changed subtly. Respect deepened in his eyes. He realized that this duel was not about defeating the human through sheer strength. It was about understanding her, adapting to her, and acknowledging the unique qualities that humans brought to the galaxy. "You have shown me something I did not expect," Xyler said, his voice steady and measured. Humans are clever, adaptable, and fearless. You have earned my respect, Alara Thorn. Alara lowered her staff slightly, breathing evenly despite the intensity of the duel. And I have learned that even the strongest warriors have something to teach us, she replied. Strength is not everything. Strategy, observation, and heart matter just as much. The duel continued, but a new dynamic had formed. No longer was it just a test of skill. It was a mutual exchange of respect, a recognition of each other's abilities and determination. Every strike, every counter, every movement carried the weight of understanding and honor. As the arena shifted and the platforms moved, Alara realized something profound. This duel was a symbol that humans, despite being underestimated, could rise to any challenge, adapt to impossible situations, and prove themselves through courage, ingenuity, and heart. And Xyler, the legendary Zoreth warrior, understood that. The turning point was not a single strike or a single maneuver. It was the realization that humans were more than they seemed. They were clever, courageous, and capable of inspiring respect in even the most powerful beings. The stage was set for the final part of the duel. Both warriors had shown their skills, adapted to the arena, and earned each other's respect. The audience waited with bated breath, knowing that the climax of this extraordinary duel was approaching. Alara adjusted her stance, gripping her staff firmly. Xyler mirrored her, his eyes sharp and unwavering. Both understood that the next phase would decide not just the duel, but the recognition of human potential in the galaxy. The turning point had arrived. Humans had proven they were formidable. Now, it was time to see how far determination, ingenuity, and courage could take them against even the greatest warriors the universe had ever known. The arena had shifted once more. Now, it was a vast expanse of floating platforms connected by thin bridges of energy. The swirling lights of Chiron Prime below cast reflections across the surface, making it both beautiful and dangerous. The platforms moved unpredictably, rising and falling like waves, testing balance and timing with every step. Alara adjusted her stance, gripping her staff tightly. Her body ached from the long duel, but her mind was sharper than ever. Hours had passed since the duel began, yet she felt energized rather than exhausted. Every movement, every strategy, every strike had been a lesson in courage, creativity, and determination. She had learned to trust herself completely. Xyler floated opposite her, poised and calm. He was powerful, disciplined, and precise, yet there was a hint of something new in his expression: respect, curiosity, and perhaps even admiration. Their duel had become more than a test of skill. It had become a conversation, a silent exchange of understanding and recognition. "You have proven much, human," Xyler said, his voice carrying across the arena. "Your courage, adaptability, and intelligence, I underestimated you. I see now that humans are more capable than many in the galaxy believe." Alara nodded, catching her breath. "And you, Xyler, have shown me that strength alone is not enough. Strategy, patience, and understanding are just as important. We have both learned from this duel." The arena shifted again, tilting platforms sharply and introducing new hazards, spinning energy barriers, floating pillars, and sections where gravity fluctuated unexpectedly. Alara leaped from one platform to another, timing her movements perfectly. She dodged a sweeping strike from Xyler, spinning midair to strike back. Sparks flew where their staffs met, illuminating the space around them. The crowd watched in stunned silence. No one had expected such a battle. Humans were often underestimated, but Alara had proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could match even the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Whispers of admiration spread across the audience. Aliens of all species were witnessing history, a human standing toe-to-toe with a legendary Zoreth warrior. Xyler struck again, faster than before. Alara barely dodged, using a spinning platform to pivot and counter. Her attack was clever, using momentum and environment rather than raw power. For the first time, she felt the possibility of victory, not through force alone, but through ingenuity and understanding. The duel became a dance of strategy and skill. Each strike, each parry, each movement was precise yet fluid. Alara realized that the key was not to overpower Xyler, but to anticipate, adapt, and exploit openings in the arena and in his movements. Her mind worked faster than ever, calculating angles, timing, and possibilities. Then came a critical moment. The arena's energy shifted suddenly, creating a rotating platform between them. Xyler lunged, aiming to strike with force. Alara feinted to one side, then leaped to the rotating platform. She used the momentum to spin and strike, forcing Xyler to block defensively. The force of the impact caused the platform to wobble, testing their balance. Xyler recovered quickly, his stance unshakable. "Clever," he said, a faint smile beneath his helmet. "You are full of surprises. Humans are unpredictable indeed." Alara smiled slightly, catching her breath. "And Zoreth warriors are patient, disciplined, and powerful. I've learned much from you as well." The duel continued, each fighter pushing the other to the limit. Platforms shifted, barriers rose and fell, and gravity fluctuated. Every move was calculated, yet seemingly spontaneous. Both warriors were aware of the other's skills, strengths, and patterns, and each responded with ingenuity and precision. Alara noticed something subtle in Xyler's movements, a small hesitation when he adjusted to the arena's shifts. It was not weakness, but a pattern she could use. She focused on timing her strikes with the arena's changes, creating openings that forced him to defend rather than attack. Her strategy was working. Xyler recognized the shift immediately. He adjusted, anticipating her new tactics. Yet even his incredible skill could not predict every unpredictable action. Alara's human ingenuity allowed her to create moments of advantage, brief yet significant. Each success built her confidence and strengthened her resolve. The audience leaned forward, mesmerized. This duel was unlike anything they had seen. Humans had long been underestimated, yet here one was, facing a legendary Zoreth warrior and holding her own, even gaining small advantages. Whispers of astonishment grew into cheers, applause, and admiration. Alara felt a surge of determination. She was not just fighting for herself, she was representing humanity. Every move, every strike, every decision was a statement. Humans were not weak, fragile, or easily overlooked. They could think, adapt, and rise to any challenge. The arena shifted again, creating a vertical challenge. Platforms rose and fell, some spinning, some tilting, and gaps opened that required careful calculation. Alara leaped from platform to platform, using the changes in gravity to her advantage. She struck at Xyler's side, forcing him to step back. For the first time, she sensed a true opportunity. Xyler recovered, his expression thoughtful. "Impressive," he said. "You have adapted to every challenge, anticipated my moves, and used your environment cleverly. Few could do what you have done." Alara's heart raced. "Then perhaps the time has come to see what humans can truly achieve," she said. She readied herself for the final phase of the duel, focusing every instinct, every skill, and every strategy she had learned. The arena's energy surged, creating a final challenge, a series of shifting platforms connected by narrow energy bridges. This was the ultimate test of balance, precision, and timing. One wrong move could end the duel. Alara took a deep breath, her body tense but her mind clear. Xyler moved forward, poised to strike. Alara feinted, then leaped across the platforms, using the momentum to gain an advantageous position. She struck carefully, not with force but with precision, exploiting the rhythm of his movements and the shifting environment. Xyler was forced to defend, his attacks less aggressive than before. The duel reached its climax. Alara saw an opening, a subtle shift in Xyler's stance combined with the movement of a platform. She acted instantly, leaping and striking with perfect timing. Xyler blocked, but the force of her maneuver caused him to stumble slightly. The crowd gasped. For the first time, Alara saw hesitation in the Zoreth warrior. It was not fear. He was too disciplined, but a recognition of her skill, courage, and ingenuity. She had proven that humans could match even the greatest warriors in the galaxy when they relied on their minds as much as their bodies. Xyler paused, lowering his staff slightly. He looked at Alara with a mixture of respect, admiration, and awe. "You have proven more than I expected," he said. "Humans are clever, courageous, and adaptable. You have earned my respect, Alara Thorn." Alara lowered her staff as well, smiling. "And you, Xyler, have shown me the value of patience, discipline, and honor. I will remember this duel always." The arena's energy stabilized, platforms leveling out as the duel ended. The audience erupted in cheers, applause, and astonishment. Humans had proven themselves in a way the galaxy would not soon forget. Alara had not only survived the duel, but she had earned the respect of a legendary Zoreth warrior. Xyler stepped forward and extended his hand. "Let this duel be remembered, not as a contest of dominance, but as a testament to skill, courage, and understanding between our peoples." Alara took his hand, shaking it firmly. The gesture symbolized more than victory. It symbolized respect, recognition, and the potential of humans to stand among the galaxy's greatest warriors. As the spectators cheered, Alara looked out over Chiron Prime. She felt a sense of pride, not just for herself but for humanity. They had been underestimated for too long. Today, they had proven that ingenuity, courage, and determination could challenge even the most formidable opponents. The duel had ended, but its impact would be felt across the galaxy. Humans were no longer just a minor species. They were a force to be respected, a people capable of extraordinary feats when they trusted themselves and their instincts. Xyler turned to leave the arena, his voice carrying across the crowd one last time. "May this duel be the beginning of greater understanding between our peoples. Humans have earned a place among the stars." Alara watched him go, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and excitement. She had faced the impossible, adapted to every challenge, and emerged not just victorious, but respected. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary, a human proving that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could match even the greatest warriors in the universe. As she left the arena, the crowd continued to cheer. Spectators of all species came forward to congratulate her. Humans were no longer underestimated. They had proven that their ingenuity, courage, and determination were forces to be reckoned with. Alara smiled, knowing that this was only the beginning. Humanity had taken its first major step among the stars, and the universe would never look at them the same way again. The duel had ended, but the story of human courage and ingenuity was just beginning.